Meg's merch won't be ready for her Netflix launch.
And Prince William's former aide speaks publicly for the first time.
Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two other famous royal couples on either side of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in California.
And I'm Rupert Bell, heading towards spring, yippee! But I'll have also the news on the Prince and Princess of Wales. And once again, they haven't been quiet.
All right, so Rupert, first of all, I have to tell you, kind of off topic, and definitely not when it comes to the Wales family. Oh, actually, it does involve the Wales family a bit because, according to Prince Harry, they were major Suits fans. I have to tell you, I watched the first episode of Suits LA here in the States, and there's all sorts of talk about could Meghan make a guest appearance? I hope not, because this show is so good. And according to Prince Harry, Prince William and Catherine were fans of the original that was shot in Toronto that starred Meghan Markle. If William and Catherine liked the original Suits, they are going to love Suits LA. But I guess my question to you would be A, do you think that Meghan Markle would lower herself to a guest appearance on Suits LA? And B, do you think that William and Catherine were really fans of Suits and Meghan Markle before Prince Harry started dating her? Because I've always not believed that.
I couldn't possibly comment. I wouldn't know if they were fans, but it's an easy thing for Harry to say
Right.
whether they were or not, because obviously the Prince and Princess of Wales won't actually admit whether they were or won't, because we don't tend to hear too much about it. And I don't think in the present climate they will come forward with an opinion about Suits. What I will say, I can't say I've seen the episode of the program that you've had. It's past my radar, but obviously it will be interesting. I can't see her making an appearance in it, and if she does, if it's a sort of complete rebrand, well, she will want to come in with a starring role. She's not going to want a 2-minute cameo just for a bit of publicity. She'll want to prove that she's back in the big time. But at the moment, I think, she seems to have more than enough ensuring that she can get a few products in a shop, rather than worrying about appearing in a reboot of a series that, yes, she was part of, and a series that was reasonably successful on a global scale. But I think she's got more important things to be worrying about. And if she's serious about as ever, then as ever, she should be concentrating on.
Good advice, Rupert. All right, so I don't know if you saw this really sweet video that was trending over the last few days, but it's Prince William. He traveled to Liverpool last month to meet community groups working to support young people in the area. And there was this adorable student named Mohammed who asks Prince William, "Are you the king?" And he says, "Hello, are you the king?" And Prince William says, "No, I'm not. I'm his son." And I just thought it was the sweetest exchange. Of course, then you see the picture that they take together, and you see Prince William saying cheese, and your heart explodes. But there's always this gossip, even throughout the cancer battles, about attention going on. And this battle for power between Prince William and the king. And to me, I mean, it's something we whisper about, in the royal reporter community. Like, did you see this report? To me, it was one of those moments where I really felt confident that Prince William respects and loves his father. It was just so instinctual and so respectful, and it was a kind moment that was void of any sort of arrogance or entitlement.
I think what it does show is that Prince William is very good with people when he's out and about. He knows his shtick, basically. And if someone does it, he's not going to suddenly sound all grumpy when he's saying that. What he's going to do is that boy is a wide-eyed innocence. He's not quite sure probably what's going on. Who is this guy who's the center of attention? And probably thinks, well, he must be the king. He's very important. But actually, it shows his naturalness. Now, you talk about a rift. They're always talking about that Prince Charles is now king. always didn't necessarily agree with what his mother was doing at various stages. I think what it shows at the moment, and obviously with all the illnesses and everything going around, what we're going to see from Prince William is he's not going to be rocking the boat because he knows his father's got enough issues to worry about. So I actually think that at the moment, William, as we've seen, wants to do things his own way. He's got his own interests and he's very passionate about those, whether it be the Earthshot and other issues as well. But I think he's not going to be rocking the boat because he knows his dad is around doing the job and, he's charging around the country. What he's been looking at a whole lot of diggers today, I think, as we speak, and watching a lot of JCB diggers the King has been at and has been going around the country and trying to have an active role, just as Prince William is. Look, last week, I think he was sunning himself on the island of Mustique, much loved by his aunt back in the day. No, great aunt, I should say, back in the day when she sort of made it the holiday hotspot. It's a private island. So hopefully they have come back from that suitably refreshed and have had a nice winter break on the island of Mustique, which is a private island. So there would have been no prying eyes.
Right, let's stay on the topic of Prince William because 60 Minutes, Australia scored a touchdown, as we'd say in the States, with a interview that I never thought I'd see coming with Jason Knopf, an incredible, a very valuable asset to the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge at the time, because I do believe he leave before they became the Prince and Princess of Wales? Perhaps
He left. He's left. It was 2 or 3 years ago, but he's still been working on
with
behalf
the
of the
Earth
royal
shot,
family. But in
yes.
terms of, but of course, most famously, obviously was working with the Sussexes and helped with the wedding. So he was the one who was at the heart of the bullying allegations. And I have to say, you're absolutely right. This is a touchdown with Super Bowl proportions for the program in Australia that they've come up with that. So I have to say, fair play to them. But actually, I think it was a very good documentary, and I'm quite convinced, and I think it would have not been done without the full permission of the Prince and Princess of Wales, because he's obviously a very good friend for theirs and has worked very closely with them. And I don't think he's the sort of person who would just blindly going in to doing something like that. And it's quite interesting that it's in Australia that this program is coming out, when there's always this talk of the Republican movement. Yet here we have a full-blown documentary singing the praises, in a way, of the Prince and Princess of Wales, who obviously in time will become the head of state of Australia.
Absolutely. So what was your biggest takeaway from that interview? If anybody's curious, it's available on YouTube. I'd say my biggest takeaway was his suggestion, and this is involving the Sussexes. He says, and I think he's also hinting at the Kate conspiracies, but he says specifically that it's almost impossible to control a brand today with the way that social media is. The reason why people love Prince William and Catherine is their authenticity, because you cannot stage and fake and control a brand the way you could 20 years ago. That to me was almost a sly dig at the Sussexes. Did you interpret that in any way?
I think there was quite enough of sort of veiled implications that it was quite tough working for them, because one of the accusations always has been at the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, particularly the Duchess of Sussex, that she doesn't take advice very readily and wants to do things her own way. And we're seeing it all the time, the sort of talk that's coming out even recently. So I think that was the biggest problem. And then, of course, we had the big issue with the obviously the bullying allegations. And she was at the, that was a really difficult thing. And he was the one who put his head above the parapet, protecting members of the royal household who he reported that they were finding Meghan particularly difficult to deal with. And, I've heard, many of us have all heard the rumours and what was allegedly going on, and how impossible she was at times to work with, and he was at the heart of that. Then obviously he goes and jumps ships and works for the Cambridges before they became the Waleses. So I think we quite clearly know where his loyalties lie, and this program definitely was designed to promote. And actually, there was that story about how he dropped the news of the birth of one of the children on the street, and he was panicked that it was going to break before, because someone would have picked up that piece of paper because it had the press release chapter and verse. And then he says, well, thank God for that. I got away with one there. But that was a sort of nice background story of the difficulties at times of being a press secretary on behalf of the royal family. I think, as they say, he got away with one there, rather than being dropped from a great height. If that story had broken a little bit earlier, if it had fallen into the wrong hands. But overall, I have to say he came across as a very level-headed man who was definitely know which side his loyalties lie.
That's true. A very likable character. Meghan does not paint him as such in the Netflix series that where she's, irate over the fact that he is collaborating or contributing in any way to that lawsuit, when it came to her forgetting that she collaborated with Omid Scobie and Carolyn Durant on Finding Freedom. Let's talk briefly about the piece in the 60 Minutes episode where Jason opens up about how devastated Prince William was on the other end of the phone when he called him to tell him that the Princess of Wales had cancer. It really tugged at my heartstrings. I don't know if it did the same for you, but it's hard to hear that he was going I mean, what they did is they did a really good job of explaining all the pressure on Prince William at that time. And as a royal reporter that was working at that time, I felt a lot of guilt that, even if we accept the assignment and we had to sit on TV and contemplate where is Catherine. Probably less so for you because the United States is so doesn't have the same laws about health that you do. But I did feel some real sympathy for Prince William.
I think we have sympathy from all of them, particularly the sort of Nadia, I suppose, and which forced her, the Princess of Wales, to make that statement was obviously seeing her walking out of the Windsor farm shop, walking home, having had a quiet afternoon, sneaking on a Saturday afternoon, like so many families, trying to have a normal life, just slipping quietly to the local farm shop. But then obviously everything broke out after that. And then she had to do that video, sort of saying what was coming out. I think that's it. It was hard because there was so much speculation. But more importantly, what it did say is the human side, because as Jason Kanoff said in that documentary, it's basically, he's having to deal with the double whammy of his father's diagnosed with cancer and his wife diagnosed with cancer. And with all the speculation that goes on in the modern social media world and the sort of voracious sort of speculation that was out there, it was very hard. And I think it would have been really hard because his primary aim would have been to protect his wife. And one of the things they were also worried about, to make sure that the children were fully aware, and they had spoken to them, and they were just always trying to protect the children because it's we all know families devastating if a parent has to talk to their children, probably at any age that they've got cancer. It's not easy, and it creates, you want to always control the narrative. Now, that's something that all of us outside the royal family and probably major celebrities can manage to do. But overall, I think it showed the real human side, and actually the viciousness at times of people wanting to speculate and saying, well, there's nothing wrong with her, and all this sort of garbage that was put out at the time. And I think Jason Kanoff in that documentary just saying that he felt for his friend ultimately, and it goes back to my original point. You know which side he's on.
Yeah, his quote was, "It was awful, absolutely awful. It's the lowest I've ever seen it," which breaks your heart. Before we move on, can we talk about his reaction to questions regarding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, Harry and Meghan? I feel strongly that when you secure an interview like Jason Kanoff, Jason has the power to tell you what is off limits. And I think he likely allowed that Harry and Meghan question, or the multiple Harry and Meghan questions, perhaps put his foot down as to how far they went down the rabbit hole with them. But it certainly seemed like this was such a good get for 60 Minutes that they might play ball with something like that. I thought his answer when he would talked about how he wished their young, beautiful family. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he said something like, I wish their family well. Um, oh, he said, I wish them absolutely all the best with their lovely family. To me, it reminded me of something we say in the South, which is bless your heart, which is it sounds nice, but it's kind of like dismissive. Did you get that sense at all? Or do you think that he was coming from a place of sincerity? And it's not a critique of him. I related to him in that moment.
I don't think. I think he's probably just saying he's wishing them well. What human being is not going to say that? I know he's had to ride out the storm and criticism and deal with it, but actually shows he's rising above the parapet and
Hmm.
has not been goaded into making a riposte to some of the things that came at him, as you alluded to already. How Meghan perhaps saw him as the villain of the piece, but he's not responded in kind to that. And so by wishing them well, he's actually shown, well, bit of gentlemanly behavior. And I think that's very important because it's trying to take the steam out of the situation. Because if he'd gone and said something, and there had been some, Jason Knopf slags off Meghan and Harry, then they got the story. But actually, it's supposed to be about the Prince and Princess of Wales and their future role within Australia. And actually, overridingly, that seems to be the impression, and that he's been able to control that narrative, although quite at any stage he was bound to be asked about something because he was, as we know, he helped organise the wedding, and as he said, it was a reasonably happy time. It just unravelled a bit quickly afterwards.
Yeah. And he says he wouldn't have changed anything. And I don't remember seeing the exact question, but we assume that he says he wouldn't have changed anything related to the way everything unfolded with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Um, and he also was, like you say, staying above the fray, said, yeah, I have to manage this stuff for other people. So if occasionally I have to take the heat too. It's good for me. It's good for me to see that side of things. So a very mature young man. Prince Harry might learn a lesson or two from Mr.
Uh,
Knopf.
I think what a good press secretary takes the heat off his employer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what he does. You've got it in your country. You've got someone who goes to bat and tries to deflect some of the hoo-ha around, your lively presidential press conferences at the moment. And the press secretary is trying. Her job is to try and manage what's going on. So a really good press secretary should be there to protect and manage their employer. And in his case, he's been very loyal. And even though he's not longer working, he's obviously got a huge amount of a bond with them. And I think he's still involved in the Earthshot
He is,
organization. So
yeah.
he's still got a pretty much he's got an open telephone line to the Prince of Wales, and I assume the Princess of Wales, because he will be, even if he's not in the front line, it's someone that maybe the Prince of Wales can go, give me some advice here, just some extra level of experience and a good sounding board. And I think that seemed to be the overriding impression of why he was out there, because he is appearing to be such a calm and level-headed individual.
Absolutely. Let's talk about as ever. I mean, the first thing you said to me is, I love your butt when we logged on today. Is that what you
Well,
said to me?
sorry. I mean please, can we just rephrase that? That makes me sound a bit odd and out of context. Okay, Megan, dear viewers, this is something about Megan. It's not about Kinsey. Okay, so I promise you. What I said is I want to read a quote to you.
He
So
did.
very harsh and very
I just
unfair of
I
you.
I
You've
just
just
thought
dropped
that
me in
my
there with our
introduction was
viewers thinking
better.
I'm low scum and very rude. What I want to say is, because obviously we've seen one or two Instagram posts of Megan, as of course we're days to do are getting few before the launch of the most famous cooking show or lifestyle program the world has ever seen on March the 4th. Well, basically, this quote, I believe, that's on this kitchen board, there's some really inspiring word salad quotes. I love you with all my butt. I would say heart, but my butt is bigger.
that's her vision board, and I guess she's trying to show us what she's trying to manifest for as ever. But she's looking a lot in the past, Rupert. These are quotes from the TIG. These are quotes from her Instagram when she was running the TIG. And my argument is, and we'll just go ahead and bring this story into the fold now. It is being reported by Page Six that Meghan's products will not be available during the launch of the show, which we have reported for months now that these two things were going to go hand in hand. The launch of Meghan's retail arm and her Netflix series, which from a marketing standpoint is brilliant. Of course, you're going to use your Netflix series to promote your products. That's a no-brainer. The New York Post / Page Six is reporting that, things are just not ready, and that she is so behind that they don't expect her to be included in the Netflix House promotion, which was also something that the Daily Mail reported that Meghan's products could potentially, I mean, they said she was going to be available in malls. I know it's kind of harsh to say, but you and I, along with Meghan Markle, spent 2 years locked in our homes with nothing else to do. She's had plenty of time to strategize, come up with names, come up with products, and get all of her ducks in order. And here we are. Meghan Markle is not ready. I think it's totally unacceptable.
Well, there are two things here. At one stage, she was convinced it was going to be called American Riviera Orchard. And then she puts out this Instagram post saying, well, actually, it doesn't really fit the bill. Well, remember, before she even launched those 16 jams, surely if they'd done due diligence, they'd have known.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. It's been just poorly handled. Now, she's the driving force behind it. Yes, and so now she's having to backtrack, but she's tracking, right, making it seem like, well, it was events out of my hand. I want to be more than just because American Riviera Orchard, you can only sell products within what is perceived the district of California that American Riviera is. So that is a first mistake. Then, as ever, it turns out that there are other companies
multiple
with clothing companies, various small time companies
and
called as ever.
a big fast fashion company. That's why Meghan can't sell clothing but can you're on to something I want to reference here. Because Page Six, the title of this story where we discover that she doesn't have her products ready is exclusive. Meghan Markle must show she is authentic, a new Netflix series. And one of the quotes from a TV insider is, nobody knows who she really is. The world created this image of who they think she is. To your point, excuses, excuses, excuses. She says, oh, I haven't been able for the last few years in that Instagram video, I haven't been able for the last few years to show you my passions. You're a 40-year-old woman. You're no longer a member of the British royal family, and you haven't been for 5 years. Who or what is holding you back? And this quote about, nobody knows who she really is. The world created this image of who they think she is. Rupert, 12 episodes of the Archetypes podcast, 6 hours, if not more, of a Netflix docuseries that she, ultimately had control over. She's tried to tell the world who she is, and they're just not buying it. It's not that we don't know who she is. It's the lack of authenticity, and it's the lack of sincerity that we just are rejecting.
Well, and I think that's what we rejected when we saw that Instagram post. It's not true from a business perspective. She's trying to turn it round that these are events out of her control. What does the king do? If you go to Highgrove, you can find all his jam in the shop in Tetbury. Highgrove, it's awash with stuff. So it's not as if you can't sell stuff if in the royal family. You can. You can buy all the biscuits you want down there and other Highgrove products, coming from his farm. So it is possible to do something within the confines of the royal family. So I will not hear that, that she is saying she could not do this. She absolutely could. The moment she left the royal family in the confines of that, and she was embarking on her own career, then she needed to knuckle down and make sure that she got it right and she put the right team around her. Well, the problem is she struggles to get the right team around her. Okay, I read an article, I don't know, after the Netflix documentary finished, the current latest one. She went round to the production crew and gave them all presents. Well, that seems to be a fairly normal thing to do, probably on a big shoot. If you've been housed together for the last, I don't know, however long it took to shoot this thing, it's probably not, it's a big enough crew, but she could certainly afford to give them something. So I would have thought that's just being decent, but all the, we're hearing the sort of PR guffy side of that.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
not a martyr for handing somebody a dish with your engraved signature or
yeah,
note on it. It doesn't
yeah.
make you a martyr, Meghan. And it certainly doesn't hush the Hollywood Reporter and
Yeah.
Vanity Fair
Oh,
reports suggesting that you are a terror when it comes to being a boss. And, I guess to your point as well, um, you're right. That leak in the newspaper was a purposeful one. Look at how sweet Meghan Markle
yeah.
is. She gave everybody a gift. But at the same time, actions speak louder than words. And if things were running smoothly as ever, would have been launched a year ago instead of American Riviera Orchard, or at least
Hmm.
before. Here's my argument, Rupert. If the show was supposed to be ready on January 14th, why did we hear about As Ever last week?
Uh,
It
this
was
is
As Ever was not ready to go. I want to read another quote to you too before um, we wrap, because this says she doesn't, this is again the TV insider, she doesn't claim to be perfect. That's what the gist of the show is. She's just having fun. I would argue that this is a woman that never takes responsibility for her personal failures. That to me is the definition of pretending you're perfect. She never takes accountability. It's always someone else's fault. Who is their TV insider, Meghan? Like,
the big trouble is she does think she is Madam Perfect, and she is
mm-hmm.
going to be able to tell us how to. I mean, I've just saw an Instagram thing of her squeezing orange juice into champagne. Ah, that really is original. Oh, I mean, oh, sorry. I mean, give me a break. The problem is she's not even filming it in her own house.
Mm-hmm.
Look, you and I, we know March the 4th. We can't pretend otherwise. We will watch it. But I may be more inclined to watch the Pamela Anderson cooking show, where she's actually got 8 chefs that actually look like they can cook. Megan's only got her sort of personal friends, and they're not even really cooking in this
And
program.
they're not
So I'm
like
led to believe.
they're like convenient friends out of convenience. One of them,
Yeah.
their husband works for Paramount. Oh, that's nice in case the Netflix deal falls through. And then here's one of the quotes. Multiple sources have suggested that the Sussex's Netflix deal could end this year, as their subsequent projects, including Heart of Invictus and Polo, failed to move the needle. But a second industry insider told Page Six that if Megan's new show is a hit, Netflix could well extend the deal. What is your opinion there? Because I don't feel like Harry and Meghan, since their one commercial success, which of you know what, I hate to be morbid, but I truly feel like one of the reasons that Harry and Meghan, their show blew up, aside from the fact that they are just drama with a capital D, is that the Queen had recently passed away. I mean, it was like good, it was great timing for them. Of course, it's a morbid curiosity commercial success. Everything else has, it's a face plant. How do you feel like the return on investment has been there?
Well, I
Let's
think the
include the
interesting.
commercial success, the one commercial success.
Well, I think you have to sometimes. People who are the sort of bête noire, can be, you think, oh, I can't give him work or her work, but actually somehow they do attract an audience. And you just know there will be an audience on May the 4th and March the 4th for this program. You can't deny it. But it's not, I don't think, going to be a bestseller. Certainly when you look at the polo program, that didn't resonate. And I think there's enough going on in this world at the moment where really do we want to see some cloistered lady who lives in a sort of fantasy world,
Mm,
and when there's so much going on that is troublesome on a global scale, the timing's not great.
mm-mm.
And,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to be the problem. And her thing is she how, okay, we've had an Instagram blitz. Why did she go to Invictus Games in such a high profile time for the first 5 days of the Invictus Games? To create publicity ahead of this show and to be out there, so then back it up with all this Instagram stuff. So it's all her attempting. But actually, the nitty gritty is if she wants to be a serious businesswoman, you've got to do the hard yards. No one makes money out of business by just sitting and expecting it to come to you. You have to go out there and put in the graft yourself. It means probably going to food factories if they're going to try and be serious about selling this jam on a nationwide and maybe global scale. You've got to make sure you've got a supplier who can do that. I know somebody in this country who basically bought, when there was a tomato shortage, produces pasta sauces in this country, and he made sure his firm bought tomatoes 4 years down the line so they would always have enough. That's the kind of level of detail you have to do to put in to running a business. So if she needs her strawberries to be successful and want to be successful, she's got to make sure that she's buying the best organic strawberries, which won't come cheap, but she needs to be looking 2 or 3 years in advance. If you're going to do this properly and seriously, you've got to have a long-term game. I think she's all about the short term. Prove me wrong, Meghan, but I'm not holding my breath.
Well, it's the same thing that Tina Brown said about them just jumping on trending topics and that virtue signaling. Meghan, her attention span is very short, isn't it? Um, if you want to be, if we wanted to really be critical, where's 40 for 40 or 40 by 40? Where's Meet Me at the Lake? Where is American Riviera Orchard? Where is her Limonada podcast? Where is her life of service? She's consistently promising something and then not delivering it. And I think that to me, I don't see the value in Netflix holding on to this brand because beyond bitching about the British royal family, Rupert, I don't, what do they have? What do they
Uh,
have?
the interesting thing here is the more I read now is the seismic shift in the sort of media narrative about and well-respected Vanity Fair once who were pro them shifting and going the other way. That's all you need to know. The
Mm.
fact is, yes, there's probably much more negativity here because they feel that they've had a real pop at the royal family, and we are British, and we're probably, as a nation, reasonably protective of the institution of the monarchy. In America, where you don't have a monarchy, you so their narrative is very important to get it right. It's all about looking good and sounding genuine. Even though, when you hear probably some of these actors and actresses being interviewed and some other celebrities, you're probably thinking, well, that's a very good performance. But at least you might be engaged by that performance by whatever celebrity it is. At the moment with Meghan, it just feels so fake.
What a great sentence to end on, Rupert.
Well, no, I might give you a bit more of that word salad from that board if you want.
Go, let's
I've only
go.
given you
Let's
one.
go.
Well,
It sounds poetic coming out of your British
um,
mouth.
what, stay close to people who feel like sunshine. There you go.
Oh, that was
Um,
beautiful. Thank you.
well, there you go. Well, I would like some sunshine in this country. We haven't had much of it, but anyway, what are you doing on March the 4th? Are you watching the program?
You know I will be. I'll be texting you a lot of expletives.
Well, I'm into a busy sporting time because I'm getting ready for a thing called the Cheltenham Festival. So I'm spending a time looking at a lot of horses at the moment. So next Monday evening, I shall be settling down for however many hours of trying to improve my lifestyle with Meghan.
I do have this is literally just us guesstimating at this point. I felt like they dumped all of the polo episodes at the same time because they kind of knew it was a gutter. Do you think that because it seems like they're kind of desperate for this Meghan thing to work, do you think that they will do the way that they did The Crown or their original Harry and Meghan reality show where it was a chunk, they dropped a chunk and then another chunk? Or do you think that they will try to do a weekly episode because they realize that you and I this is a busy beat, and that if they drop it weekly, then that is 8 weeks of continuous promotion for Netflix, which ultimately they're desperate to get their return on investment back, and the products aren't available yet. So,
Well, I think she's got 8 weeks to get the products out there. So if I was sensible, I'd be hoping that we once a week we get a new episode. But if it's
wow.
boring, well, it's just a question of how quickly, people will be engaged by it. Of course, there will be people who will like it. I'm not going to say it's going to be a universal, there will be people who will say it's the best thing they've seen. Well, fair play to Meghan, but I think they might be in the minority. If we're
Mm.
proved wrong, Kinsey, we have a lot of strawberry jam to eat, and as well as humble pie.
Oh, well,
But I
perfect.
feel we may be all right.
You've got a couple of really great quotes this episode, Rupert. I applaud you. All right, agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. And do you agree with Rupert that Meghan Markle is the greatest poet in the entire world and should post more on Instagram?
Well, I live near Stratford upon Avon. Please, no, she's not. I've got him in the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford upon Avon is 6 miles from my home. He's the world's greatest poet. Read some of his sonnets and see some of his plays. He knew how to write poetry. Meghan, still a work in progress.
Yes. More butt content, Meghan. Please, please, all around. All right. Let us know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.